I was playing because it was my passion, and
Yeah.
it was really fun. And
Yeah.
I loved it. I loved to practice it. I loved to play it. I loved to talk about it. You know, I loved to watch it. Baseball was my passion.
Yeah.
So for me, every step of the way, really the goal was just to be the best player on the field.
Hello, my name is Matt Brose with Lockton. In my role, I consult with employers all around the country related to their employee benefits strategy. We're in conversations all the time about how to attract the best talent and get the best out of their people. Work ethic, integrity, those are all traits of people that pursue excellence, and it doesn't even stop there. From the boardroom to the storeroom, we're going to find out what drives those people. Welcome to the excellence culture. This is going to be an excellent adventure. Welcome to the excellence culture. My name is Matt Brose with Lockton Dunning Benefits, and I am really excited to have somebody here to talk about excellence with, and that is Ian Kinsler. 14 seasons in Major League Baseball, 4-time All-Star, 2-time Gold Glove winner, and now you're getting to sit with an insurance guy.
Yeah.
So really appreciate you coming, and thanks for that time.
Yeah.
So yeah, the reason why we're having these conversations is I'm really wanting to hear stories of people that just execute, excellence on an everyday basis. It might be somebody like you, who is obviously somebody who's done some pretty special stuff, but it can also be somebody who's at a car wash that just wakes up every morning and wants to do the best that they can. And so being able to have this conversation with you, I think we can learn a lot from. So yeah, again, I really appreciate you taking this time.
Yeah.
Could you just kind of take us into a little bit of little Ian Kinsler?
Yeah.
And maybe kind of first share with us a little bit of your upbringing, et cetera?
Yeah, I grew up in Tucson, Arizona, to Howard and Kathy Kinsler. My dad grew up in New York in the Bronx, moved to Tucson to play on the freshman basketball team at U of A. My mom grew up in Phoenix, Arizona, and decided to, go to the University of Arizona, and that's where they met. So that's where I was raised, that's where I was born, that's where I was raised, and I don't know how many people have been to Tucson, maybe heard of Tucson. It's a smaller town, there's not a lot going on. Obviously warm year round, perfect for sports and being outside and whatever. So my upbringing was outside, playing in the dirt and the rocks. There's not a lot of grass. Trying to keep the cactus out of you.
Jumping choyas.
Yeah, jumping choyas. So it was really a perfect environment for a kid to be outside and learn the sport that they love. And baseball at a young age was something that I loved. I was drawn to it.
Was there any other sports?
Soccer.
Okay.
So soccer was my second sport, and some people that are really close to me that I grew up with would probably say that was my best sport until I was like 14 probably. Okay. But baseball to me was definitely my love and passion. So at 14 in high school, it was a little bit of a shift where baseball became my primary focus. Soccer with like a club team and then the school team. When I was 14, I stopped playing the club team soccer and just focused on baseball. But still played soccer at school through my senior year. So it was still part of my athletic polish, so to speak. Yeah. Because similar to basketball, it's a lot different. The way you utilize your body, the way you move, understanding how your feet work and things like that, which can be 100% beneficial to baseball or to whatever other sport you're playing. So
you're obviously pretty fast because you could steal some bases too.
Yeah, I was more instinctual, I think. Yeah. I could run, but I wasn't like a Trey Turner or, like a Bubba Thompson who plays for the Rangers, like these guys that are just burners. Yeah. A lot of stolen bases, a lot of the base running for me was more instinctual. I did have the speed to go with it, but it wasn't like that was my attribute that jumped off the page. Okay.
So tell me a little bit about just kind of your parents growing up, the kind of kid that they wanted to raise.
It was a very laid back household for the most part. Both my parents worked. My dad was a prison warden. My mom worked for the city financially. for the city, for the public health system.
Okay.
And, they worked from 9 to 5. It was pretty typical. I had to walk myself to the bus stop every morning, walk myself home from the bus stop every morning or every afternoon, and, kind of have that period of time. Whether, when I was younger, it was the after school program. You'd go for a couple hours, wait for your parents to get off work, they come get you. And then when you get to high school, you come home and you're sitting on the couch or you're trying to finish your homework as fast as you can. So when mom and dad get home, you can catch a ride to the ballpark. But, it was religiously, there was really no force in our household. Mm-hmm. My dad grew up Jewish in New York, and my mom grew up Catholic in Phoenix.
Okay.
My mom comes from a pretty strict Catholic household where she has 10 brothers and sisters, Portuguese Catholic family.
Yeah.
My dad grew up on the East Coast, Ashkenazi Jew, and it's a culture on the East Coast, a Jewish culture.
Yeah.
And they decided before they had children that they would not push any sort of religion on their children and kind of let us find our own way. So I'd say more spiritually.
Yeah. But taught independence, it sounds like.
Yes. Yeah. And you kind of figure it out for yourself and what you're drawn to and those types of things. But definitely, sports, being active was a huge part of our house. And I have a younger sister who grew up playing soccer, softball, and then decided in high school she wanted to be a cheerleader. So it was always something, you always had to do something outside of school.
Yeah.
And that was important in our house.
That's cool. Well, I'd love to hear, because we might be fast forwarding a little bit just in your life, but is there somebody that sticks out as just one of the greatest mentors you ever had? Like just in your quest of who Ian Kinsler ended up becoming, who had a lot of influence on that?
Man, that's such a tough question to reflect on because obviously my dad and my mom are huge influences in my life. But you start to think about your peers and your friends and people that you're close to, people that you grew up with, and then you start thinking about the coaches and how many different steps along the way of your life you got to develop relationships with different people. So it's really hard to peg down one person, but I would 100% say my dad. Mm-hmm. Outside of that, my high school coach was a guy named Kent Winslow. Okay. Who, for me, it started in high school. There was our coach named Kent Winslow, was an excellent coach, an excellent mentor, really understood how to grab our attention and hold our respect. Mm-hmm. And, that's big at a young age in high school with, kids from 14 to 18 and understanding the team dynamic and also just a young person's frame of mind and view of the world. And he was able to keep us all intact and motivated and he kept his respect through the time I was in high school. And then I ended up going to junior college, and there I met 3 guys who were pretty influential on me. First was the head coach. His name's Clint Myers.
Okay. This is in Arizona, right?
This is in Arizona, Central Arizona Junior College. And the head coach was Clint Myers, and he was just an extension of Kent Winslow, really. And all of this was just, as far as baseball is concerned, it was just a great growing environment at every step along the way for me to understand the game and to push my instinctual game to the next level and just understanding the game more and more each step. Another guy who was there was the pitching coach. His name was John Wente, and he's still in my life. He was in my wedding. We talk on the phone probably twice a month. He's still coaching. He's at Sacramento State right now. He's a pitching coach, and I lived with him at one point in the summertime when I went for summer ball. I lived with. He was my host family basically, or he stayed with me at the host family, and he was the head coach of the team, and we lived together. So
that's cool. Every
drive home, we got to talk about the game and dissect the game, and I learned a lot. And then there was another guy at that same school. His name was Michael Marino, who played at Arizona State, was an excellent ball player, and just a ball of energy.
Okay.
And he was the guy that really pushed me physically. I knew what hard work was, but I didn't. Sometimes your intent gets lost in hard work, and he was constantly on me about my intent. He knew that I would work hard. He knew I would take any opportunity to get extra work, but the intent of it and the energy that goes with it.
Is there also like a belief behind it too?
Yeah, absolutely. It was just really important to him. He rode me, and for me, through the course of my life, I seem to really be attracted to people who are on the borderline of being critical.
Yeah.
You know, like somebody that criticizes me constructively, on the borderline of constructively and not just somebody that kind of rides me, was somebody that I was always attracted to. I wanted to be around that person, and I think that really started at a young age with my dad. You know, he was very critical, but very constructive. And he had, you know, his major was you know, in his, what ended up being his job was being a warden in criminal justice, and he was minor in psychology. So he had a pretty good idea of how, you know, discipline works, and motivation, and what to say and how to point things out to me.
That's such a good point, man. I don't want to interrupt you, but like that, you know, we're talking about excellence here, right? And it's not this flashy excellence kind of thing, but it's just people who are trying to be the best they can, they just accept correction, it seems like, right? And that seems like that's what you're kind of talking about.
Absolutely. It's self-reflection, really.
Yeah.
You know, people, in my experiences, when we talk about excellence, people that have the best self-reflection are usually the most excellent.
Yeah.
People that can understand what makes them tick, what's going to make them better, and they're able to digest that and use that, are usually the people that are the most excellent, regardless of if it's sports or anything else. If you have a pretty good self-reflection of where you're at and how to get to the next level, and like what you need to improve on, and what you're kind of, you know, what makes you really good, and you're able to manage all of those things, usually it leads to production.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Well, it sounds like you've had some pretty good, impactful people in your life, and I'm sure
absolutely.
through the majors too, you can kind of keep going.
Absolutely.
And you might be able to reference some of those people, you know, coming up. But it seems like, you know, I kind of did a little bit of research on you. Obviously, you're an easy person to research, but it seems like kind of in college there was a struggle when you were at Arizona State a little bit. Maybe you weren't noticed the way that you should have been. And then obviously fast forward, you were drafted in the 17th round to go to the Rangers. And then next thing you know, I mean, not long after that, you're an all-star and a Gold Glove winner. And so mentally for you, I mean, was that just a challenging thing to go through? Because I feel like you probably believed that you were better than everybody thought. But
I've always believed that. And to a fault, really, sometimes. You know, in high school, we had 5 major leaguers on the team. Ended up being 5 major leaguers on the team. So, and all of those guys were big kids. They were all big and strong and fast, and they were just better than everybody else. And so I was overlooked a little bit there. But I still thought I was the best player out of all of them, internally. And that's just how I played, and that kind of carried with me through the rest of my life. And everything kind of happened for a reason, looking back, and really the learning moment was at Arizona State, like you mentioned, where I got benched. I transferred from junior college to Arizona State, and there was a guy named Dustin Pedroia who won an MVP in the major leagues, borderline Hall of Fame guy. He's at Arizona State as a freshman. I transfer in as a sophomore. They move him from short to second, and I'm playing shortstop. And the first 7-8 games of the season were terrible. I was missing booting ground balls. I was striking. I just wasn't playing good baseball at all. And then the Pac-10 schedule started, and I was on the bench. And I think the rest of the year I got maybe 1 or 2 at bats. And Dustin moved back to shortstop and ended up winning freshman Pac-10 Player of the Year. So that was a great learning moment for me, because I'd never sat and watched the game. And the coaches who were there, Pat Murphy, you know, he might there's a lot that kind of drags along with his name at the collegiate level, and people have different opinions of him.
Yeah.
But I learned so much from him, and the way that he organized that team, a lot of meetings. He made us read, motivational books and books of psychology, sports psychology, and present chapters to the team. And there was just all kinds of different things that we did. And I wasn't playing at the time, so I had time to learn all of this and like sit back and actually digest it and think about it. And then I decided I needed to transfer if I wanted to get drafted, because going into your junior year, that's your first eligibility from D1 to be drafted.
Yeah.
So I ended up transferring to the University of Missouri, and there I was good.
Yeah.
I thought I was better in the 17th round, just like previously in my life. I always thought that I was better than what was happening around me or what other people thought, I guess. But I never really let that bother me. I didn't make it. It wasn't external. I didn't put that out in the world. It was more inside. I felt like I was the best player on the field.
When did you start believing that you were going to play Major League Baseball?
You know what? I never really that was never really part of the process, or really part of the reason why I was playing.
Yeah.
I was playing because it was my passion, and it was really fun. And I loved it. I loved to practice it. I loved to play it. I loved to talk about it. I loved to watch it. Baseball was my passion.
Yeah.
So for me, every step of the way, really the goal was just to be the best player on the field, the best player on the team, because I was like, I'm signing. I'm ready to go and learn more and see what, show everybody what I'm capable of.
Yeah.
But that first experience in Spokane was definitely nerve-wracking. My first game, I think I went 4 for 4, 4 for 5 or something, and I was like, oh man, this is awesome. And then my next 23 at bats, I didn't get a hit. I went 0 for my next long stretch, and that's where it's like, I gotta be better.
Yeah.
I gotta figure something out, and that was probably the first time where it was, it was never doubt. It was never like, man, maybe I can't do this. Mm-hmm. It was always, what do I have to do to get better?
Yeah.
What do I need to improve on? What adjustments do I need to make? It was never going onto the negative side. It was like, I know I can do it. I got to figure out how.
Yeah.
It was never, I probably can't do this, or this is too hard, or whatever. And then, honestly, thinking about the major leagues, in 2004, I was invited to play in the Arizona Fall League, which is a league that the top prospects go and play. And when the summer's over and the season's over, you go to Arizona Fall League, and that's where all the best prospects are. And I played really well there. And that's where it was like, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready for the major leagues. And it was probably still a little bit early in everyone else's mind, but in my mind, I was ready for that.
Yeah.
And it took me another year of AAA, and then I was able to break opening day roster. But a little view, I guess, into my mind at that time, I guess.
Yeah, and that mindset is, man, baseball, I feel like the game of baseball and maybe the game of golf, you hear about slumps in those two games more than any other game, right? You're going to hear about slump all the time in baseball. You hear about slumps in golf. And so just that idea of the mental side of the game and that peak performance world, was that a big focus of yours, or did it just come natural for you?
I think, growing up with my dad and the constant, criticism, constructive criticism, and how to play the game and your approach to the game was something that was just ingrained in me at a young age. Yes, did I have slumps? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Were there nights when I laid in bed and just stared at the ceiling and wondering what the heck is going on? And yeah, absolutely. Where it was just sleepless nights and you're going, man, I'm never going to get a hit again.
Yeah.
That 100% happened. But I love baseball so much, and I love the work, the effort and the process of it so much that it never got to the point where I felt like I was overmatched, or this was the end, or that never really even got close. And I think a lot of that was, the mental the mental state that my dad instilled in me at a young age.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, in my world, you know, I do employee benefits for companies, and the mental health of America is a huge concern in our industry, and it's something that we're solving for all the time. Whether we've figured out the ultimate solution, probably not, right? But, you know, was that even anything that was on the horizon for you in the MLB? Maybe not you personally, but just the MLB in terms of, you know, even helping those players with their mental health. I think it's really easy for us to be in this seat thinking that a guy like Ian Kinsler or you know, name whatever name doesn't struggle with mental health because they're so strong. But it does seem like, I guess we've found that there's nobody that's, you know, fireproof of that. And so was that anything that was on the horizon when you were playing? And do you see that increasing kind of even among those peak performing athletes at all?
Yeah, it was during my career was when all of that started to kind of take fold.
Yeah.
Teams started hiring sports psychologists, and
Yeah.
you know, they were around, they were in the clubhouse, they were available. And, you know, for the longest time, athletes at a young age were taught to stay even keel. You know,
Yeah.
don't get too high, don't get too
Kind
low.
of Roger Federer kind of.
Yes, Roger Federer, and that was pounded into you.
Yeah.
You know, never show weakness.
Yeah.
Never show the other team that you're struggling or whatever, right? That you're beat. You just can't. Emotions were checked.
Yeah,
when
you think
played
about the
sports.
baseball season in itself and the amount that y'all are away from your families and.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But at a young age, we're taught to check
Yeah.
our emotions.
Yeah.
You know, and so growing up, that is kind of ingrained in you. And you know, through the course of my major league career is when, you know, people started understanding maybe it's effective to have somebody to talk to.
Yeah.
You know, for these athletes, because everybody reacts differently to the pressures of, you know, playing a game in front
Yeah.
of, you know, 40,000 people every night, and then addressing the media after, and then being considered a role model for kids, and then having their own kids, and then having to deal with their wife and their spouse or their girlfriend, and then their families and the way they act, you know, and friends that want to, you know, just there's a lot of things that can potentially be on the plate. And through my career is when it kind of all started to happen. And the Rangers hired a guy named Donnie Kalkstein, who's now he now works for the Mavs, and he's been with the Mavs for quite some time. He's with the Rangers. He went to the Red Sox when they broke the curse, and then he now works for the Mavs, and he's fantastic.
Yeah.
He's amazing at his job. But 100%, the crazy thing about the phrase mental health to me is that it's like so vast.
Yeah, it is.
It could be somebody that is performing in the limelight
Yeah.
and doing a great job, but when they go home, they're anxiety ridden for some reason. They have a tough time sleeping. Their mind is constantly moving or wandering in places that it maybe shouldn't go, or they don't know how to process that. So that it's just like this huge range of things that, you know, we've now coined this term mental health.
Yeah.
And for me, it's kind of dangerous because it can be so many different things. And really being able to talk to somebody that you trust and has an education in that realm, and can kind of help you process it, I think is important.
It's so key, and you know, you guys deservedly had somebody right at your fingertips to talk to, and what we're solving for is the fact that there's a lot of people that don't have somebody to talk to, and to get a scheduled for a counseling appointment could take 2 months these days, and so that's the real thing that you know, we're focused on a lot with employers. And so you know, I appreciate you being able to kind of share a little bit on that. Okay, we're going to go to a little bit of the bright side. I want to hear about the cycle. Okay, you're one of the very few people in the history of the major leagues who batted the cycle, and so go ahead and kind of explain that, and then I would love to just kind of hear what your mindset would look like on that last hit.
Yeah, it was a crazy night.
So what is the cycle?
The cycle is in the same game, you hit a single, a double, a triple, and a home run in 4 different at-bats.
Yeah, it seems easy.
It's the triple, really, that's difficult, because maybe you're hitting 5 a year.
Yeah.
If you can run.
Well, it looked like to me, because I watched it for the first time just yesterday, and it seemed like you knew you needed to hit it to right field, and it almost seemed like you intentionally hit it to right field. And to think that, these pitchers are so good and that you have the time to actually, I'd love to hear what was your mindset, and did you have that much control of the bat that night?
I did have a lot of control of the bat and the strike zone and my body that night, but leading up to that triple at bat, I'd already had 4 hits, and 2 of them were singles.
Okay.
And 1 was a double and 1 was a home run, so I was a triple shy. And my 4th at bat, when I got my second base hit, my second single, I rounded first, and I came back, and I was like, kind of the reflection moment where I was like, man, I'm 4 for 4, and then I started thinking about, okay, I got 2 singles, a double, and a home run. Oh, like I'm a triple away from the cycle.
Yeah.
So even in my 4th at bat, I didn't realize that I was a triple away from the cycle. And it was a high scoring game, so offense was necessary, and so your focus was still really high, because the Baltimore Orioles at the time were still scoring runs, and it was kind of a boat race, and to see who could get, constantly stay ahead. And so that's why in that 4th at bat, I wasn't really thinking about the cycle. I was thinking about winning the game and doing what I could to help the team. But that 5th at bat, 100% I knew I needed to hit it to right field to get the triple. Was I trying to hit it to right field? No. Yeah. I'm never really trying to hit it to right field unless I'm forced to, like move a runner or do something for the team. Yeah. I'm trying to hit the ball to left. I mean, that's just where I naturally hit the ball. But it just so happened it was just the perfect placement. Probably never hit a ball like that in my, other than that one time in my career, where it was kind of a driven, like fly ball. Not really a line drive, not too high where the center fielder could run under it. It was like the perfect trajectory into right center field. And it bounced off the warning track, and it was very close to just bouncing over the fence and being another double, ground rule double, but it kind of hit the top of the wall and shot straight up in the air. So that gave me a lot more time to be able to get to third. So it was like perfect placement. And the crazy part was like, it was on Jackie Robinson Day, which was amazing. And I wore my uniform like him, and at that time not very many players wore their pants up. Okay. Now it's pretty relevant, or everybody's kind of has their pants up or some sort of style. But at that time, that's maybe a little bit what I was known for. And to be on Jackie Robinson, to be a second baseman, to have my uniform that way, that was in my mind. Yeah. Like, this is Jackie Robinson Day. If I do this, like, this is the coolest thing ever.
That's so cool.
To, accomplish it on Jackie Robinson Day. So that was part of the scene for me. Yeah.
That's cool. Well, a lot of us here in Texas, we remember the 2010, 2011 team. It just seemed like there was just so much synergy, in that team. How big of a part of that team was the culture? The culture of that team. It just seemed like y'all were having a blast.
It was a huge part. Yeah. We were high character, high energy. Yeah. And we had the manager and the coaching staff that took us to those places, allowed us to be who we were. And Ron Washington was high energy, loved baseball, huge passion for the game, and every day came to win. There was no BS with Wash. I mean, it was pretty straightforward. We knew what he expected from us, and we knew what we expected from each other. And like I said, it was a bunch of characters. We had a fantastic. I mean, we just had so much fun. being around each other and playing the game together in the dugout, on the field, off the field. We were constantly having fun, but winning was our number one priority.
Yeah.
Having fun never took over the fact of we need to beat the other team. So, and that was the character of our team, and everyone really was a place in that.
Okay.
And so it was, like you said, it was just a great time in the Metroplex. The excitement around the team was incredible. You know, you drive through neighborhoods and you see Ranger signs in front yards. You drive on the freeways and you see Rangers, flags hanging out windows, and you see tailgating going on at the stadium. People are excited for baseball, and it was just a great time to be a part of that club.
Where would you rank like the culture piece of that time in terms of what kind of led to y'all's success? Obviously, you've got people that are physically awesome, great ball players, that kind of stuff, pitching, whatever. But to me, it seemed like culture was that thing that just kind of really led to that success a lot.
100%.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in that.
Yeah.
Just the right mindset, the right attitude, and the ability to not really take yourself too seriously. To be able to accept a message from one of your teammates that you might not like at the instant that they give it to you, but you're able to maybe joke about it a day from that, or a couple hours from that message, and you're able to do something about it.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of culture we had.
Yeah.
It was a safe environment. It was a safe space, and everyone felt like they could speak their mind, and everyone felt like they were a part of what we were doing.
Yeah.
Nobody was a cast out,
Yeah.
And
that's cool.
That was the culture.
Yeah.
And it worked great.
I mean, we work with a lot of employers trying to help them get to that place. It's not unique in just professional sports that people are trying to get there, just like the synergy you guys had. So that's really cool. So what does just kind of the future look like right now for you? You've got this awesome role with the Texas Rangers. Tell me a little bit about that, because I think people think assistant GM, but specifically, kind of what's your day-to-day like in that role?
Yeah, so my title is special assistant. So I work with the organization, and it could be a number of things. It could be, I go to the ballpark when they're home, go to the batting cage, work with the hitting coaches, work with the players. I sit with the general manager during the games, and I'm more of just a sounding board for them. And Chris Young played baseball for a long time in the major leagues, and so to have somebody around that understands what he's saying, I think is important for him. So I'm able to do that. And then AA Frisco is right up the street, about 30 minutes. So I'm able to, see the minor league guys and the developmental players, and then also help with the amateur side and like the draft and maybe talking to some high school kids, some college kids, depending on our draft situation, and helping the organization really any way I can. That's kind of my role now, and it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, it seems like something that even just with your history, because it seems your upbringing and the college years, et cetera, was just such an important part of who you are. So you're probably pretty passionate about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've experienced so many different things in the game and steps along the way, right? Like in high school, I said I had all these guys that ended up being in the major leagues I was playing in high school. We were nationally ranked.
Yeah.
We were 4th in the country, 7th in the country, 10th in the country. And then from there, I went to a junior college, which is, a little bit of a grind for most people. They don't understand that you can get better there, and that it's not a knock on you as a player. It's just a stepping stone.
Yeah.
But I was able to experience that. I was able to play Division I baseball in 2 major conferences, in the Pac-10 and the Big 12 at Missouri. And so I was able to experience that. And I was also able to experience being a late draft pick and like what that means, and how to get the organization to understand that once you're drafted, whether you're a first rounder or you're a 20th rounder, when you get to the organization, it's a clean slate.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how much money that we invested in you. If you don't perform, you're not gonna play at the highest level.
Yeah.
So I have all of those experiences, and seeing the guys that were picked in the first, second round in the years around me, how the organization operated with them and how they operated and their whole process.
Yeah.
And then I played for 5 organizations in the major leagues, so different views, met different people. You know, networking and having relationships across the game is important. So I just try to use that experience to help players, really.
Yeah.
That's my goal. I mean, I love helping the Texas Rangers organization. It's like a second family to me.
Yeah.
So
It feels like it.
yeah, it's like really fun for me. But at the end of the day, if you can pass along a piece of information to a player, someone that's doing it now, and see the light bulb go off and see the success from that conversation happen, there's nothing that's more rewarding than that.
Yeah. So if we're thinking about character trait, this is what we're going to kind of close up with. If we're thinking about character traits, okay, and you want to encourage one of these younger players to be the best that they can be, what would you say are the character traits that you have a tendency to really focus on if you're in like a mentor role with somebody?
For me, number one is attitude.
Yeah.
That's above all.
Yeah.
Like your attitude and the way you carry yourself, the way you approach other people, your day-to-day consistency with that attitude is number one for me.
Yeah.
Behind that, we've already talked about it, would probably be like self-reflection.
Yeah.
Is to be able to understand how to make yourself better, what you're good at, what you need to improve, and those sorts of things.
That's good stuff.
And that's kind of those would be the first 2 things that I would want to know.
Yeah.
And then outside of that, it gets more, baseball centric, where you're not worried, but you're thinking about adjustments.
Yeah.
So you brought up golf. If I go to the driving range with you, who played golf at a high level, and you're trying to teach me something, and I can't feel that, or I can't make that adjustment, it's going to be very difficult for me to make that adjustment. It's going to take me a lot longer.
Yeah.
So that's another thing that you look at is how quickly can a player make an adjustment? Is it a day? Is it like 5 swings? Is it a month?
Yeah.
So those are really important.
Yeah.
For me, and like I said, attitude trumps all.
Well spoken, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Matt.
Appreciate it. Welcome to the excellence culture, man. And I really appreciate the time. I think we can learn a lot from the things that you said. So
Great.
Thanks
Thanks for having me.
Yep.